Hey everyone, Ridden here. Thank you for coming. And tonight we're going to take an in-depth look at episode 4 of season 1 of Marvel Studios' WandaVision. Welcome back everyone, and I don't know about you, but I spent this entire week on pins and needles waiting for this latest episode of WandaVision. And boy was it worth it. We finally got to see the actual moment of rematerialization after Hulk snap and what it looked like.
They're all coming back. We don't have the capacity.
This completely blew me away. We weren't even a full 30 seconds into the episode and I was already floored. So I knew the rest of the episode was gonna be amazing. We get to experience this completely chaotic moment through the eyes of Teyonah Parris's Monica Rambeau character as she awakens at an empty bedside and barrels through a hospital as others also come back into being. We come to find out that Monica, as with the rest of the departicularized and now reappearing people of the universe, doesn't remember anything about her time away, and that in her absence her mother's cancer returned and ultimately she succumbed to it over 3 years ago, which was 2 years after Monica herself disappeared. Emotionally, as I'm sure was the case with you as well, and obviously Monica, this moment hit me like a ton of rocks, and then the intro began and I realized this episode hadn't even started yet. Man, I love this intro. So we're shepherded into the Sword's headquarters about 3 weeks later with overhead newsreels with headlines like "The Blip brings back loved ones." It was actually Spider-Man Far From Home that brought the term the Blip into canon, differentiating it from that of the Snap, as the Blip is recognized globally as the return of everyone's loved ones. And well, the Snap was, funny enough, Kevin Feige has stated that the event as a whole, both the going and returning of half of the life in the universe, was always supposed to be recognized as the Blip, but the public ran away on the Snap train, and what can you do, So we find out that Monica, Captain Rambeau, was already a member of SWORD prior to the Snap. And as acting director Hayward leads her deeper inside of the headquarters, we get an awesome shot here and callback to Lashana Lynch's Maria Rambeau, Monica's mom, whom we come to find out was instrumental in helping to build SWORD from the ground up. And in the later scene, we get to see a bit of that influence, as Monica finds out she's been grounded for terrestrial missions only, beginning as a chaperone for a drone to be used by the FBI for a missing persons case in New Jersey. This is a direct result of protocols and guidelines her mother put into place in the event vanished personnel ever returned. In a reintroduction I've probably been waiting for a bit more than most, we finally get to see the reemergence of Randall Park's character James E. Woo, previously seen in Ant-Man as an agent of the FBI, who for some reason magically appears his business card, so he's still up to those tricks. Woo reveals to Monica via shares from a neighboring town named, you guessed it, Eastview, that the town Westview isn't actually a town and that it shouldn't exist. And when asked why he hasn't gone in yet to investigate the missing town with a population of 3,892, he says simply, because it doesn't want me to. And upon further investigation of the flat out vanishing of a SWORD helicopter drone similar to the one we've seen previously, remote piloted by her, Monica is sucked into the town of Westview. In an episode of Returns, it would seem, we also see the reemergence of fan favorite Darcy Lewis, previously seen ages ago in the Thor stuff before Ragnarok, as in Thor 1 and Thor the Dark World, en route in a convoy of scientific brilliance, assumedly on the way to the response base to help SWORD figure out what is going on. Since her previous appearance, it would seem Darcy has grown in both her professional field as well as her personality, as I was pleasantly surprised and delighted with the nuanced updates to her character here. She's now Dr. Lewis, who's whippy, smart, and has a very house-esque confidence, it would seem, in her initial assumptions about the field. She figures out that there is a large amount of CMBR, cosmic microwave background radiation, that supposedly dates back to the Big Bang, and that there are longer wavelengths superimposed over the noise, leading her to the discovery and deliverance of our beloved television show WandaVision, as she requests a TV, an older one to be exact, as there seems to be a broadcast frequency intertwined amongst the muck. Continuing, We then see the origins of the sewer-dwelling beekeeper from episode 2, as sewer agents are sent into the sewer outside of the field of influence by Director Hayward to find out what's going on and where is Monica. In the midst of a conversation between Wu and Hayward, Darcy's television visuals and audio are noticed by everyone else, and we get the interest-show realization of WandaVision by Sword as they watch the occurrences of what we know as the first episode on a monitor in a very confusing fashion. From here, the team begins to piece things together, starting from the basis of a missing persons case by identifying the individuals within the show, of which Wanda and Vision are the first. We also see Wu begin to write out questions on a whiteboard that several of us have had, the first of which being, what is the significance of the recurring hexagonal shapes we've seen? Why sitcoms? And is Vision alive? It would seem that it was also Darcy that figured out how to communicate with Wanda via the brief radio transmission we saw her and Dottie over here. In this episode, we essentially get to see the bird's eye view of everything that's happened thus far in the series, both in Westview and outside of it, as next we follow the sewer agent through the sewer pipes and witness as his hazmat suit and tether turn into that of a beekeeper and jump rope once he crosses the field's threshold. We are shown that the entirety of the Sword response base has basically turned into mini 1960s living rooms, as everyone is gathered in front of an olden style turn-the-dial television set within their respective work areas. And it's at this point we finally get to see the culmination of what we discussed in last week's review and episode of the ending of the interaction between Wanda and Geraldine, our Monica, as Wanda blasts her through the bookcase, through the nursery, through the wall, through the gate, out of the town, and back into our reality. Monica then makes the statement to Wu and Darcy that it's all Wanda, that she's in control of everything taking place, something that is doubled down on once our setting returns to Wanda and Vision inside of the town, inside of their home, and she tells him she has everything under control. And what I'm beginning to believe will be a weekly statement I'll have to make, today's episode has, you guessed it, climbed my list as my favorite, unsurprisingly. It brought our entire story thus far full circle, in so much as we the viewers are supposed to know now, and provided added context, filling out some of the empty spaces the plot thus far had created. The episode managed to do all of this whilst keeping us in a standstill of time. As of the ending of episode 4 titled We Interrupt This Program, we have arrived chronologically at the exact point we left off at last week. At the end, Wanda turns around when Vision returns to see his dead form we saw previously in Endgame. Remember, as Vision is an artificial man-made life form and was killed prior to the snap at the hands of Thanos, he wasn't revived in the blip like others, and he briefly resumed in this moment the form Wanda last remembered him in our reality that she whisked him away from. We didn't get much of Agnes in this episode, and in that same vein, nothing new to go on to further our speculations regarding who is responsible for what's happening here, such as Mephisto. But the ending here to me seems like a bit of a red herring on behalf of the showrunners to throw us off of the trail of whoever the mysterious entity pulling the strings might be. In this most recent installment of WandaVision, we got a chance to step away from the established sitcom norm of the television show and return to the world of the MCU we so know and love, as can be seen through the varying aspect ratios we see throughout the episode. Just as I have deemed this my favorite episode thus far, I have no doubt there will be many others who feel the exact opposite. This episode served to set up our plot even further going forward, establishing the context we need to further evaluate where all things stand, with Monica now front and center as the show's Fury/Coulson-esque agent on the job. With the added presence of Wu and Darcy, we now have protagonists on the outside of Westview that we the audience care about just as much as we do on the ones within. And with her mother's nickname Photon being casually dropped earlier in the show, a name by which Monica has gone by in the comics, we now have a solid foundation upon which Teyonah Parris can begin to build a new fan favorite full-fledged character of the establishment. I don't know about you, but I am more excited than ever to see next week's episode. We'll be continuing to cover this show every week here on the channel. And as I'm sure you're just as anxious and excited as I am to see how this story continues to unfold, please be sure to come on back next week and cover it with us. Again, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell for notifications if you've enjoyed our content here tonight. Jump down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. And while you're at it, be sure to check out some of the other content here on the channel. All of the necessary links are listed here below for you to keep up with the coming content and shareables. Please be sure to follow me on all social media platforms. Or just the one you use most frequently. We are slowly but surely building a community here, and I would personally love for you to be a part of that. And last but not least, we have a merch store. So whether you see something you like or just simply want to support the channel, head on over to our shop and grab something, or grab everything. But again, thank you so much, guys and gals, for visiting here with us today. I really appreciate each and every viewing minute of your time you've given us. There's loads of content we'll be sending your way, so I'll be seeing you. But for now, be blessed. And it was written.
Across the nighttime, the city sleep inside. Yeah, hear her voice, shake my window, sweet seduce.